The delectable, the lovely Shobha Dey. A big hand for her, please. Shobha Dey, welcome to Jaipur. Shobha, you are the author, if I can put it like that, of 4 columns in national newspapers. You have a readership of 18 to 20 million people. So that puts you, every week, that puts you into that category where you are actually one of the most powerful women in India. How does that feel?
That feels ridiculous. I mean, your description. How can you equate power with something like that? Power is, I see power very differently. It is, I would say, a huge challenge, a huge responsibility to be able to communicate effectively with 20 million people week after week after week. And I've been doing it for 40 years. So without either the readers getting bored or me getting bored myself. But before we get into that, I'd just like to say thank you so very much, all of you, for being here this afternoon. I was so panic-stricken. I said it's the last day, it's a hot afternoon. I'll be lucky if I've got 5 people in the audience. So thank you, Jaipur, very much. Thank you very much. It's always been a great venue for me. It is the single most important platform, not just for writers, not just for readers, but for airing public opinion that is free and fearless. That's what this festival stands for, and we should fight for that spirit, and that's why all of us are here in the numbers that we are here, and thank you once again for that introduction.
Shobha, tell us how it all began. You were the editor of Stardust magazine in the early days, and it would have been quite difficult as a woman making your way in the world of letters, etc. Tell us a little bit about what it was actually like in those 70s.
You know, I would love to come up with a hard luck story about what a terrible life it was. It really wasn't. I think women in media, we've always had a very, very strong representation for over 40 years, and that continues even today. We've been very lucky that we've found our own voices, our own platforms, our own readers, and done so on our own terms, most importantly. So being one of the youngest editors in India, at the time I was I think 22 or 23, I never ever looked at it from a gender filter. It was a job that I was asked to do, it was a job that was offered to me, it was a job that excited and interested me, because we were creating something that was quite new, that was quite different from the genre of film magazines that existed at the time, which were mainly public relations vehicles, talking about new movies and movie stars in a context that didn't really go beyond Asha Parekh has just got 3 new poodles. So Stardust came along and broke the mold. Totally. It spoke a new language. And that was the great and exciting challenge for me.
And obviously it had huge resonance with your readers because it was something new, and I'm told everybody rushed out and bought a copy.
Well, we didn't know that at the time, because even the movie industry was not prepared for Stardust. They're still not prepared for Stardust, just by the way. And we've almost come full circle, and we're back to PR journalism with a vengeance, with the managers and publicists planting stories, and, you know, space being bought in most of our newspapers to promote a new movie, and it doesn't go beyond that.
Are you disappointed with that kind of...
Very disappointed, because I would imagine that in the 21st century, when we have otherwise such a vibrant press, and we do have, thank God, all the digital platforms where opinion is still pretty much uncensored, though I'm sure there'll be crackdowns on that, even stronger crackdowns soon enough, unless we resist, and the time to say that is here and now. The PR journalism has come to define journalism, whether it's you're doing coverage, political events, you're doing profiles of politicians, or the powerful, or the industrialists, because most of media is controlled by big business and by politicians. So what real freedom is there? It is pretty much circumscribed by the ownership pattern in media.
Have there ever been attempts to nobble your column to get you to write stuff that people wanted you to write?
I've been very lucky with my editors, and I think they have shown a great amount of faith, great amount of, I would say, even respect for free opinion in their columns. And there was only one column that I can remember in these 40 years that was not carried because it didn't suit the owners. And it was a very, what shall I say, I wouldn't say hostile, I would say a critical, truthful, honest, brutal, searing criticism of Sonia Gandhi. And that was the only column that was dropped. I would still write it, and I did publish it on my blog, and it didn't cause an earthquake in India or elsewhere. So, I mean, we must have the guts to say what we have to say.
You've got to be absolutely fearless. One of the columns I read recently was the one about the rape victim, which I thought was an incredibly sort of sensitive and well-written piece. Why is it, I mean, I'm a foreigner here, I'm from Sri Lanka, why is it that there is this perception that kind of north of Bombay, things get difficult for women, Bombay and south, generally things are safer? What in your opinion?
To start with, that's mythology, and it's complete distortion. There's not a single city, not a single taluka, not a single district of India that one can claim is safe for women. So the north really needs to reposition itself. Because to be constantly referring to Delhi as the rape capital of India, in a way, I mean, yes, there were 600 rapes in Delhi which were just in 1 year and just one conviction, which is deplorable, disgraceful, and a sign of the depravity that we live in, the times we live in. But which woman in India is safe today? And that one single case has galvanized public opinion, has galvanized India, has galvanized the women of this country, and given them a voice and given them the strength that today they can fight back. Those protests were not engineered protests. Those protests were spontaneous protests. There were no political groups that were collecting people and saying, go protest at India Gate. They were people, men and women, I'm happy to say, across all divides, who were there because they have had it up to there. This was the wake-up call perhaps that we were waiting for. It's sad that it was provided under such tragic circumstances and with such brutality at its core. But the point is, wake up the country, it did. Wake up the women of this country, it did. And today, I don't think there's any woman here, certainly not in this group, who's going to say, oh, if I'm in those circumstances, I'm going to sort of, or make sure there's a Rakhi in my bag, I can quickly fish it out and tie it on my protection and call him my brother and say, please have mercy on me. It's not happening. What has happened is that it's a kind of defining moment in our social history. And we must not miss it for what it is not. It is not a television opportunity, it is not a television story. It has touched lives so deeply. It has pained so many people. And like our President said so eloquently, it was brutality against humanity, not against just one woman. It's no longer about just one rape. It's about brutality in our society, and it has to be addressed in a manner that is befitting and with the seriousness that it deserves. And for that to happen, mindsets have to change. The mindsets of the ruling class, but they have to show they have enough, not just lip service concern, but actual, they mean business. Because at the time that it happened, there were all those protests on the streets. There was a minister, cabinet minister who had the audacity to say that government does not go to the people. They hid in their homes. When there were people out there, innocent people facing water cannons and worse. And had it not been for the media and the role that the media played, keeping up a sustained campaign, she would have been, Nirbhaya would have been just one more statistic. No one would have cared. The fact that this girl did not come from an influential background, and the only crime she committed was getting into the wrong bus at the wrong time with men with an iron rod in it and bad and terrible and evil intentions. So it's that inconsequential a woman's life. You get into the wrong bus and boom, you can be dead. So it is the biggest tragedy of our country that we are facing right now. I would say it is almost a state of emergency that we need to recognize it as that, where women across the board and many men across the board are feeling this sense of not powerlessness. For the first time, they're feeling empowered enough to get up and fight back and say it's time to change what requires to be changed within our society, beyond rape, beyond violence against women, beyond crimes against women. We need systemic change. of the very basic kind. We need to bring some morality back into the country, which is right now dithering and shaking between just parties who are not just amoral, but so callous to disregard public opinion. So this is what I think the whole Nirbhaya, a symbol of what happened. She's become the symbol of that fight and a symbol of that struggle.
The delectable, the lovely Shobha Dey. A big hand for her, please. Shobha Dey, welcome to Jaipur. Shobha, you are the author, if I can put it like that, of 4 columns in national newspapers. You have a readership of 18 to 20 million people. So that puts you, every week, that puts you into that category where you are actually one of the most powerful women in India. How does that feel?
That feels ridiculous. I mean, your description. How can you equate power with something like that? Power is, I see power very differently. It is, I would say, a huge challenge, a huge responsibility to be able to communicate effectively with 20 million people week after